Our guest right now is Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation. Hans, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing fine.
Well, I asked you on today because I wanted to take a look at. Clearly, there are a lot of things that a President Trump can do when he gets in office, because there are some lawsuits pending by the Obama administration, challenges to state laws and challenges against Obamacare. And I'm guessing with a stroke of the pen, and correct me if I'm wrong, President Trump can just end some of these, can't he?
He certainly can, and that's why it's very important who he picks as the Attorney General. Because you and I both know that if, for example, the Attorney General, the new Attorney General of the United States, goes into the lawsuit that was filed against the Texas voter ID law and says to the court, we're withdrawing our lawsuit. We actually think that the Department of Justice was wrong in contesting the voter ID laws. You know, howls will be set up at the New York Times, the Washington Post, places like that. And you need somebody who's willing to do the right thing and isn't going to mind or in any way retreat when they get criticized for doing that.
Yeah, I'm guessing. I keep getting a picture of Rudy Giuliani in my brain when I think about who that right person might be. That I know he's not the only candidate, but for some reason I seem to think that he's got to be near the top of the list.
Well, I think he probably is, but I have to tell you, I also think Jeff Sessions, who's the current senator from Alabama, who's not only a former U.S. attorney, but former attorney general of the state of Alabama, he needs to be at the top of the list, too. And particularly because, remember, he actually is someone who we know will stand up to that kind of criticism. Because, remember, he's the guy who he got nominated, remember, for a federal judgeship. Joe Biden and Ted Kennedy kept him from getting it. And what did he do? Went back, became state attorney general, and then became the U.S. senator, and then ended up on the Judiciary Committee, sitting next to Joe Biden and Ted Kennedy.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great story. So, another directive I was thinking about was the ruling by the Department of Education to schools nationwide last fall,
right,
or last spring, that they had to modify and adopt their rules to allow transgender people into the opposite sex bathroom or locker room if they wanted to. That's another example of something Trump could change pretty quickly, correct?
Yes, because in fact, that was all the result of a letter sent out by the U.S. Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Justice, that was a complete and total misinterpretation of federal civil rights statutes. And it would be very easy for the new Trump administration to say, we're withdrawing that letter, it was wrong, and that basically would end that situation.
And immigration is the same thing, right, Hans,
Yeah.
on the directive to basically shield several million illegals from deportation.
No, that's exactly right. And in fact, look, the only thing Trump needs to do when he comes into office, one of the first things he can do easily is simply say to the U.S. Border Patrol and Department of Homeland Security, start enforcing the law.
Right.
That will make a huge difference. Then, yeah, he reverses those immigration amnesty policies. And by the way, and this tells you the problem with presidents doing things administratively like Obama did. Look, all the illegal aliens who got this special consideration, the records of who they are, where they are, now the DHS now has all of that.
Oh. Yeah, that's a good point. When it comes to sanctuary cities, have you looked at that issue at all? Because these are cities that have already announced they're going to ignore federal law, and under the Obama administration, they've kind of looked the other way. What can a president do about that?
The biggest power that the federal government has over state governments is money. And the very first thing, and this will just be a first step, is when he comes in, is say to the U.S. Department of Justice, to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, any and all federal funds. Both those agencies have huge amounts of federal funds that they give in grants to cities, towns, counties all over the country. And the first thing you do is you turn off the federal spigot. No federal money from the Department of Justice, no federal money from the Department of Homeland Security to any of those sanctuary cities. They would be screaming about that within a very short time, and I'd be willing to bet many of them would change their policy.
Yeah, I bet they would, absolutely. Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation, I appreciate your time. I know we need to let you get on to some other matters, but I'll direct people to heritage.org to read more on these items and many other issues.
Thanks a lot.
Hans, have a great day. Thank you very much. He needed to get on to another meeting there, so we tried to squeeze him in here. Just wanted to get his thoughts on this. Remember that when Barack Obama took office, there were several administrative directives from George Bush that he immediately reversed, like the ban on any U.S. money going overseas to support abortion or conception services or whatever overseas. It's going to be fascinating to see how many of these things Trump tackles. I've heard him talk about some of them. I've heard him talking about reversing every illegal administrative action taken by the president. But again, Donald Trump is not a conservative. He may not be as passionate about some of these things as other people are, so just bear that in mind.